of ways that Wolves can go with this one. We saw Celeste go very late in the draft last game. Maybe we see something similar here. We get the Churnwalker first pick. Wolves, I mean, they probably just saw that Queso game. We're like, that looks pretty strong. Maybe they try and replicate that.
Churnwalker so good in team fights once he gets all the enemies chained up all on the same page. The AoE damage is really hard to deal with. You want to make sure you're getting another one of those backline ranged mages who can do a lot of AoE damage on top of that. Queso had the Celeste with Churnwalker in the last one.
Looks a little familiar.
Wolves taking a page out of Queso's book, though, and going with the Adagio as well.
Yeah, we'll see if Equinox changes things up from what we saw last game. You know, obviously, they don't want a repeat of our first game from their side. So they definitely, I would expect, would want to shake things up. Maybe ban or pick the Rona away. But they're going to go for the Reza. This is a little bit of deja vu.
Are we sure this is not recorded, or are we sure that the name's right now? But in all seriousness, it still makes a lot of sense. In theory, when Wolves takes their backline mage, Reza is still going to be so good at getting on top of that. The problem is the early game. Adagio and Churnwalker are so strong in the early game that it's just hard for those heroes that normally are so good in the meta to get the ball rolling, and with how important the early game is, definitely makes things a little more challenging. Wolves, though, gonna take Celeste. Finally changed. Gonna take Celeste off the board, and that's gonna be something that Equinox is definitely gonna want to take note of, because if Wolves goes for the much tankier composition, Reza might not be able to be as effective.
Yeah, it is definitely going to be a concern. The Reza is very strong once you get just a little bit going. It's, you know, initially in the very early game, not terribly strong, but once you get, you know, your first item online really is when Reza starts to make a massive impact. So it could be that Wolves just want to try and deal with that Reza right off the bat. Go aggressive onto Reza, you know, make it so that initial power spike is delayed just a little bit longer so that you're a little bit tankier. You can withstand that heavy burst that he's able to bring to the table.
I like the Grump Job ban. Wolves, not that Vox is necessarily a tanky hero, but he's a hero that can also deal very well against the Reza, because Reza is so reliant upon the barrier whenever he goes in, the fortified health. The Poison Shiv on Vox is something that Equinox is going to have to keep aware of. And Vox, just because he can hit those item power spikes so much quicker than your typical backline mages, Reza's not going to be able to burst this hero down like he would against these more traditional meta mage picks.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting situation to see how they play around it. But with the Tony pickup for Equinox, again, which one of those two, Tony or Lyra, is going to be the carry, who's going to be the captain? I think a lot of that will depend on the final pick. So I like those flex picks like that. I've always been a huge fan of the flex picks. Force your opponents to have to, you know, wonder where are they going to go with that final selection. You know, Wolves, they can try and influence a little bit, say, okay, you know, we want to force the Lyra into a carry role, perhaps. You just start picking away or banning away some of the weapon carries that are remaining and force them to say, okay, we need to have a crystal, so we have to go with the Lyra. Or if you want the Tony to be the carry, you do the same thing, but with the crystal heroes. So they're going to take the Rona. Means if they do end up banning another weapon bruiser, they're kind of forcing the Tony into that role.
Absolutely. Wolves composition looking very tanky. I like this draft out a lot. It's gonna require good execution though. Equinox picking up the Ringo. One pick, one win, 100% win rate. Don't blow it, Equinox. But no, seriously, Ringo, if he is able to get his items, he can scale up very, very quickly, especially if he has a strong early game that all these heroes for Wolves are going to have to watch out for.
And there's going to be actually a Varia ban from Wolves. I mean, neither of these two teams really has that strong, solid mid laner, unless that's where the Adagio is going to end up going for the side of Wolves. So, you know, Samuel, Varia, Maline, all taken off the board, Celeste as well. So now it's going to be an Idris, likely a mid lane CP Idris. And so Wolves, I would expect something like the Scarf to come out here. It's really one of the only crystal mid lane mages left on the table. We'll see if that's where they decide to go with it, or if they are going to put that Adagio into mid and run something else out of the jungle.
I would also think it'd be really interesting if they do go for the weapon Batiste pick, but they're going to go for the Kestrel, actually make it all the way through the draft. It's going to be a lot of damage from the backline. She's going to need to make sure that she's being very careful of the Reza, as well as the portal in from Lyra, because if she steps out of position for just a second, she can get very easily punished.
Yeah, this Kestrel pick is something that we saw actually a lot in North America yesterday. That Crystal Kestrel coming through made a lot of impact. Could definitely do some heavy damage here with the composition that is going up against them on Equinox. But we're going to get to our players to watch for this matchup. Kick things off. Equinox, a player to watch is Viking, but not for reasons you would expect. He is actually not playing today. And that's what is very surprising to me. He's had positioning problems across a lot of their losses. When they've looked good, his positioning has been spectacular. But ever since that first week, he hasn't had the same level of positioning. He's been in the middle of fights. He's been deep inside the dragon pits when team fights have started. And so he is going to be subbed out today. I'm not sure if it's going to be something that's permanent or if it's just for today or what the case will be, but we'll have to see how this is going to affect the team going forward.
Absolutely. On the flip side of the table, for the side of Wolves, going to be taking a look at Paprika. Again, a little bit of shaky performance. He needs to step up in his roles to put Wolves on the board. Sometimes he's looked very good, other times very shaky. Definitely struggling to understand when to go in, when to disengage. A lot of it comes down to team-wide execution, though. Wolves as a team needs to make sure that they find a consistent and concise voice that they can rely upon to make sure that they are getting team fights on their terms, exactly how they want, to make sure that they are coming out ahead.
And we'll see which of these two teams is going to come out ahead when we do get into the game. I mean, again, this is a matchup between two teams that have been struggling. They have been struggling pretty heavily throughout this preseason. Definitely are sitting at the bottom two spots, but if Equinox can pull off a win here and maybe start to build some momentum on it, this is a team that could end up middle of the table, whereas Wolves, they need to find something. They need to get something going right for the motivation of the team and of the players. You know, I've saw some tweets from them after their games yesterday, and a lot of dejected kind of feelings from them. And it's really tough to see because they're up against such strong teams, but it's very difficult to keep things together when you're just consistently losing. So we'll see if maybe they can turn things around. Hopefully that will be the case for them. And we'll find out with Dowsy and Stress.
Thank you very much. Back to the Sovereign's Rise we go. Equinox versus Wolves. Another rematch on the rise here as Equinox took a victory over Wolves in week 1. Stress. Wolves have been struggling, have struggled to find their foothold here in the European scene. So we'll have to see what they're bringing today as we got a bit of a role switch up, I believe.
Yeah, a little bit of a switch up, but a switch up in the draft as well from what we've seen out of Wolves. Basically what we saw in the previous game with a couple of different changes. So I guess Wolves saying, hey, if it worked for Keizo in our last match, let's pick the basic structure again. We're seeing potentially that weapon power Adagio down in the bottom lane. Kestrel is the difference. Oh, at top lane.
Yeah, first blood comes out instantly. That's going to be Keygaza losing his life on that Vox. And Keygaza, potentially the analyst, the mind behind the team, has been struggling in his lane so far. Really not being able to... I don't think he's won a lane so far, which, you know, is a hard factor to face, but it's definitely something that Wolves need to kind of solidify in their roster.
Yeah, I find that interesting that there's a death so early on Vox. Now, Keygaza was locked into having his B ability taken. It's very common when you have heroes that have an escape, you just kind of sit on not skilling anything in case you get caught out level 1. I think maybe the engage happened after minions had reached the lane, but just a tip for people at home that are playing Vox. If you're not trying to push the wave, you don't need to skill B yet. You can actually kind of just save that and maybe be a bit safer in the lane.
I really wonder how Paprika is planning on building this Adagio. We didn't really talk much about it, but Palmator is all we'll talk about in a sec. Kieran is in a lot of trouble. Mortal Wounds taking Bruto with that red buff going to be able to take him down. That slow, so powerful for those melee junglers.
And you were about to touch on the weapon power Adagio, potentially. It's something that we saw in the last game. Has been seen in the past on 3v3. Has quite a lot of damage built into the kit, and I think the other half of it is the sustainability, because you get the heal, you get the empowerment on your own auto attacks, and if in the middle of a team fight you manage to get a heal and that big stun, well, you set yourself up for a bunch of kills.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Palmatora even built the Shiver Steel and Stormcrown, so really going more of a utility style Adagio, which just is a little bit strange when it's one of your carries coming through, potentially just setting up to be more of a captain or secondary captain role, providing the utility. Because Adagio's base damage is really strong. The analysts picked up on that before the game started. You really have that strong base damage that allows you to kind of have a really strong laning phase, and then you just move slightly towards more utility and allow your carries to have the impact that you want to. Big skirmish in the top lane as Bruno and Stefantu are butting heads. Stefantu pops the flask, but he can't escape Kigaza. That's more like it. Wolves able to find a kill.
Yeah, that's the turnaround. That's the ability to chase now once you do have that dash on Vox as well. There's a lot of damage coming out in this early game, and I think that may be the difference why we might see this go a little bit more heavily towards weapon power on the Adagio on the opposite side of the map, because there isn't quite as much of a crushing lead to start this game for Wolves, whereas when you look at it in the last game, Queso were like, okay, well, we're ahead, we've got a lot of damage, maybe we'll just kind of build some of that utility, keep getting kills, and keep advancing our lead.
Bruno trying to keep that turret alive in the top side for Wolves. Is going to get chased back into his jungle, then jump over the wall. Equinox are making fairly aggressive moves into the jungle here. On the top side, you see Stefantu trying to invade Kigaza, going to find him out. That's going to be Kigaza in a lot of trouble. The stun taunt could come through. No, Stefantu doesn't need it. He's going to punch him to death and then steal away this weapon tree. And it's a big error for Equinox. You can see that, you know, Brutal is up in this lane. Now he's getting taunted in. He's in trouble, going to try into the fray over, but he misses it. Oh! Disaster! Whoa, he's going to run away. Looks like they're more interested in stealing away the jungle than the kill. Flask will be popped, though, to keep Bruto alive. But, you know, Stefantu just putting pressure in it. And with Bruto in the top side, keeping that lane healthy, it means Kigaza has to come into the jungle to try and keep it alive. And this is very difficult. Here comes Asteroid. Stefantu baited. He will fall. But on the other side, it's a big fight in the bot side. Chrysal and Luga trying to find some kills. Paprika going to chase down Luga. The damage of the Adagio ticking. Chernwalker pulls him back for another auto attack. But he will survive and get that heal from Draxus to keep alive.
This is one of the things I noticed in weeks 1 and 2 for Equinox. Is like they make a great play with the invade up onto the top side. Then the second half of the play, somebody sticks around too long, or they get caught out, like they get baited into a fight, and the second half of the play falls away from them. That's what has cost them in multiple games right now, and it was a great move, looking for the invade top side. On the other side, Wolves also went into the bottom side jungle and invaded their own, so kind of a tit-for-tat trade, but that kill going over could be the difference maker, because this is an even game between these two teams that are currently sat at the bottom of the table.
Do have Luga now with his Divergent Pass unlocked, trying to take over this lane against Asteroid. Kestrel very strong early, and we do see that Asteroid is going towards that Crystal Power Kestrel, which did get buffed here in 3.2. The ratios a little bit better for those Glimmer shots. Have to see how that plays out, because we haven't really seen much Crystal Power Kestrel really in the European VPL yet.
No, we haven't seen too much of it. There's a lot of things we haven't quite seen that I think are going to come across over the weeks and months through the VPL as well. I think the changing meta has a lot of focus on early game right now, so that's why we're seeing a lot of champions focus the early game. We might see a little bit more of the Ronas of the world and stuff like that. We've seen it a lot this week, but when teams are used to split pushing, speaking of Rona going up top side.
Oh, the one shot comes through from Asteroid. Bruno set it up beautifully. That is a beautiful coordination coming out of Wolves, and they're looking so much more coordinated in this matchup than they have in their previous.
Yeah, looking much, as you said, you took the exact words there. Rona, a little in trouble up in the top side.
Stefantu doing his best to take out Kigaza here, who's trying to run away. Draxus jumps forward, and that's going to be the kill coming through for Equinox. Lots of trades, lots of mess. When you look at the gold, it's so even here, Stress.
Bruto trying to recall, or at least get back to safety, but right in the view of Lyra. I mean, it's a bit of a risky play. Ends up delayed on his back. That's going to allow them to push the top lane out and invade the jungle. Even those split seconds can be the difference maker.
Especially in that top side where you have Stefantu and Draxus stealing away your jungle. That means that Bruto does miss out on any potential secure of his weapon buff. We'll get the Gold Oak, very important. So those inner camps provide more experience for the jungle, allows him to keep up in the experience game. And a big push coming out of Equinox in the top side that I don't think Bruto and Kigaza can stop. Turret falling, it will just go straight down, and Kigaza and Bruto are forced to retreat back into their jungle. That's the first turret of the game going down, and Kieran at the moment seemingly with a decent lead over Kigaza. Now Bruto being taunted, caught out. This is death for Bruto. Butterbeing being misses, but Bruto's going to reposition. Here comes that Hellfire Bruin, the follow-up. Bruto will fall down, can't red miss to safety. 4-4 on the scoreboard, and now Equinox in the mid lane.
Good punish from Equinox, and a good timing here as well in favor of Equinox, because Kestrel had recalled, gone back at that time. That allows them to now move with that mid lane wave, look for the mid tower in the outer portion, but bottom lane there is a trade.
Yeah, it looks like Luger wants to come in for a fight. Kryzel's going to pull him back in. Paprika is happy with that. Jang jumping forward. Paprika going low. Fountain and the Flash. Jang wants to continue this fight, but Kryzel is taking damage away. Luger going to set stunned at Kryzel, and Paprika will find that kill. Really not what Equinox wanted there, as Wolves able to find a kill, but they did get that second turret in the mid lane.
There's the back half of the trade for Wolves down in that bottom lane. Like, you can get the damage down onto Adagio and Shane Walker, but if you can't finish them off, the little heal's going to come out. We're also going to see the Fountain come into play. Like, very difficult to actually get the kill once it starts going the other way. Jiraxis tries to look for the steal, but that is a 1 versus 5. Gonna get himself out. Hang on, wait a sec.
Not quite. He will fall down in the end, doing that desperate attempt with the Lyra to steal it away, but that is Ghostwing now going over to Wolves. They've got themselves a kill lead, but they have lacking turrets taken. This is the perfect opportunity to try and even things up with Equinox.
Yeah, I got a little excited there. I thought he juked them all, then remembered you can go through the enemy portal as well just about as quickly, so it's not exactly the easiest escape to make. But look, this is a good 4-man push now from Wolves with this buff. We've seen it already have good potency at pushing towers down. There is a push in the mid lane at the same time, but Kestrel is managing to hold a lot of it off. Will put some damage down. Maybe they can get a few trade kills on the back. Yep, Astro able to take one down.
Stress, tell me what you think of this, because, oh, never mind, we'll talk about it in a second, because that's going to be Chang going very low. Jirax is pulled back, he will fall. Luger in the worst position. Bruno, though, taking the turret, will fall. Can Luger escape is the real question. Kigaza is making sure he can't. Kigaza will be able to find the kill, coming through Kryzel actually with the double, and now they have to escape the Bane Crystal. Pushing in the mid turret is Wolves. They're just really taking objectives over the board. It really just makes my point mute. Seems like Wolves just have the objective control so far. Stefantu trying to punish. Kryzel is very tanky. We'll see if he can escape this one. Stefantu going to continue chasing. But at a point, it just becomes too dangerous to push. Paprika comes in, heal. It looks like Stefantu going to knock Kryzel back, and it is going to be Kryzel falling as Paprika will retreat.
I think it's just a sign of the strength of the Ghostwing buff right now. I mean, I kind of feel like it was strong enough before adding the added tower damage, because teams would kind of take it and look to group. I think now that teams have learned to do that, being able to group with extra tower damage on top of it is a little bit excessive and really puts a lot of pace into the early game, like very quick tower pushes at the point where we're getting armories at 8 minutes in previous games. So I wonder how that'll hold up on other patches, but certainly the teams are starting to learn that, hey, this objective is the most important thing to be looking at in the early game. And this is a little bit of an overstay on the bottom side. They're going to try and get the Lyra down here for a portal out perhaps, but it's a tough ask.
Yeah, Bruno with that red buff doing a lot of damage. Does get turned on and will fall. Jang going to jump on in. A 1-for-1 trade so far. It looks like it's going to continue as Kryzel coming down. That's going to be the escape attempt by Jiraxis, but Kryzel going in. Good reflex block from Jang to escape here. Stefantu being slowed down and chained up by Kryzel. They will get pulled back into 4. That's now Kigaza, topside, trying to fight off Kieran, but did he bite off more than he can chew? Very close fight so far coming out of those two. As Kigaza wants to get onto this turret, Kieran is low. Kieran will fight. Kigaza will go very low. Hellfire Brew coming through. That should just be Kigaza falling, burning away. Does lose his life just as the Ghostwing spawns. I wonder if that means Wolves can't go for it. They're going to start it up here, Stress, but it looks like Equinox are wary and coming for the potential fight.
Yeah, Equinox will have 3 members here coming towards the Ghostwing pit. I wonder if Wolves should have looked at taking this to begin with, or Luger trying to go in?
Yeah, does decide to move away, just trying to throw their skill shots into the pit. The potential steal, don't want to hard commit to that fight, especially with the man disadvantage. Black Claw has spawned onto the map for the first time today. We'll have to see which team decides to go for it, if any. Kryzel potentially caught out, taunted into the fight. He should just go down. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. We do see the rotation coming out from Wolves over to the Black Claw, but this is risky. They've just lost their captain player. They only have 3 men on that objective, and Equinox are all running down towards it. Half health on the Black Claw. Here comes Safan to Jiraxis as well, chasing Kigaza with the silence pop out. Black Claw unleashed, secured by the Kestrel. Can this fight go in the way of Wolves is the question. Kieran going to be the first to fall, as it is going to be Wolves continuing to chase down Luger in the mid lane, and that's going to be Jiraxis losing his life. Can Luger escape? Kigaza, Safantu diving on in. Gonna be heals. Kigaza takes the turret down, continues chasing onto Luger. Mortal wounds, the heal coming through. It's a battle of ages, and they will both fall. But it's not good for Equinox. They've lost too much, and the Black Claw is pushing.
Good timing out of Wolves, knowing that they could make it all the way up, get the Black Claw, and then be able to secure the fight on the backside, despite not having their captain alive. And look, this is gonna be enough damage now to push through. In goes Bruto.
Yeah, Bruto is coming in. Jang trying to defend, but the Black Claw has taken down that first armory. And it is just going to be Wolves retreating and allowing that dragon to battle away with the Vein Crystal for now. Turret was taken by Jang in the bot side whilst that Black Claw attempt was happening. Equinox potentially on 2 fronts, really, not coming as a 5 to try and contest that Black Claw. Really just made it an even fight for Wolves.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say not worth to get that bottom lane tower in exchange for losing your mid armory and getting the Black Claw taken away. Like, it's a good thing to be looking at where you can trade objectives, but again, if you are trading heavily in favor of the enemy when you have a real opportunity to look for an ace or at least steal the objective away, that right there is just split decision making, and it shows that the shot calling maybe isn't quite there for Equinox in this game specifically. Getting a little bit loose on some of their exchanges, as in Wolves, but still Wolves with a very good advantage here, have a lot of control over the map. They might about to be sandwiched here, but it looks like Ringo's backing, Idris is backing. It doesn't look like Equinox actually want to take this fight.
Yeah, just leaving Jiraxis in that top side. This is such an important moment for Wolves here, Stress. Currently sitting 0-4 on that scoreboard. 0-5, actually, I believe. And this is their potential now to find their first win here in the European VPL. 15 minutes into this match, they've got the gold lead, they've got the objective lead. They just need to make sure that they close this out cleanly.
Yeah, they just need to kind of go through the motions here. Look at what the other teams have done and how you close, and very clearly have their eyes on the prize here as Ghostwing has been started. But look at how close Equinox are.
Yeah, Kigaza completely caught out in the beginning of this fight. Kigaza will fall instantly. That's no good for Wolves. Can they turn this fight around? Bruto on the front line going for Jang. One shot from Asteroid. Double kill comes through so far for Bruto as he's in the middle of 3. Look at where Kieran is on the back line. Looking like he might just fall. Asteroid will find the kill just in time, and Bruto looking to lose his life. Equinox turning that fight around, finding the kills they need, and Safantu gonna stop Chrysal from backing here as he goes in with his ultimate, not quite connecting it, and Chrysal actually might just pull him into the turret and kill him. Oh dear, mistake coming out of Equinox. They could have turned onto that Ghostwing and taken it for themselves, but instead their kills are meaningless.
Yeah, at this point, a little bit of a back and forth fight. It was a good punish from Equinox to kind of deny Wolves the attempt onto the Ghostwing. Like, this has become a very open game where teams are looking at 5v5 without any real setup between it, and that's not really how Wolves should be looking to close this out. They basically have a composition that can look for an individual pick, but Equinox aren't giving them that opportunity. They're actually giving them away more than anything, Wolves, on these individual picks. Back end of the fight, though, they do tidy it up with 1 kill. It denies the Ghostwing attempt from themselves. Wolves have everybody bottom side. Look at Ringo up in the top. There is almost no way Ringo makes it down for a fight, and this is the second time in a row in this game that Ringo has been out of position.
Yeah, it is going to be the Ghostwing going the way of Wolves. And when you look at that composition, they need Kigaza to be alive in the fight because Paprika is basically playing second captain here with his utility build. Only that alternating current for the damage. Going over to the Black Claw now, it is going to be Kieran in the top side. backporting, potentially worried that he gets caught out. That means that Equinox are approaching this Black Claw as a 4v5. They want to fight. It's going to be dangerous. Luger finding Asteroid out by himself, chunks him down to half. Black Claw going down. It's going to be secured by Wolves, and here comes the fight out of them. Equinox trying to turn it around. One shot connects with Safantu. It is going to be Jang trying to escape on that Reza, but Keygaza diving onto the front line, doing all the damage. Bruno finds the first kill of the fight, and don't forget the Black Claw is pushing down the mid lane. Equinox needing to retreat and make sure they don't get caught out here, because this could be the end of it all for them. Keygaza building a backcore, probably going to pick up those teleport boots and come straight back into the fight. Great one-shot connects with Luger. He has to go back to the Sanctuary, and here comes that Dragon's Breath on to the Vein Crystal. Equinox, desperate attempt to keep their base alive. The Vein Crystal is going down. Wolves need to fight now. Here comes the ultimate. Jang goes in. Chrysal stuns up. Boom! That's Kieran dead straight away, and it looks like it's going to be Jang falling as well. Luger and Jiraxis trying to keep this one alive as Safantu recalls, comes back in, doing some damage, but the Vein Crystal is falling. Wolves, can they take it down is the real question. Double kill for Tony. They do find the Vein Crystal, and Wolves find their first win of the EU VPL Preseason Invitational.
Wolves looking a lot better today than we've seen in previous games. Helped out a little bit by a little bit of miscommunication out of Equinox on their map play, but certainly Wolves capitalizing very well. Good moves between Ghostwing and Blackclaw, bouncing back and forth on the major objectives, and ultimately earned themselves their first win.
Yeah, really secured solid stuff coming out of Wolves. We know that